really missed you. I've been thinking about you lot loads. I've been writing your reports, and I'm thinking about all the amazing things that you've learned and done over this last few months. I can't wait for us all to be back at school together again. But I hope you're all safe and doing well. So, this week we're starting a brand new topic. We are going to be looking at recycling. What is recycling? Do you know what recycling is? Do you? So recycling is when things that are no longer needed anymore. So when you've opened a can of beans, you don't need the can anymore, and you don't want it anymore, it goes somewhere to be made into something else and reused. So recycling is when you have something that you don't longer have a use for and it can be reused as something else. Okay? So that is what recycling is. And recycling is actually really, really important. So another example of recycling is, you don't see them as much now because we've all got iPads and everything, but back when I was younger and your mummies and daddies were younger, they had things called newspapers. They still have them, but you probably don't see them all that often. And they're big sheets like this, and you read the news, what's going on every day. But they're only for that day. So every day when you finish a newspaper, just throw it away. But you don't, you recycle it. And then it gets reused and it gets made into new paper. And then the newspaper that you were reading last week, next week's newspaper might be printed on. Does that make sense? So it's when you don't need something anymore and it gets reused to be something else, which is really, really important. So there's quite a few different things that could be recycled. But we are going to look at four things. Four things that generally you find in your kitchen after you've been doing some cooking. They are glass, metal, cardboard and paper, and plastic. They're the four things, but they aren't the only things that can be recycled. Old clothes can be recycled. If you do the garden, you've got some leaves, they can be recycled. Your food, when you peel your potatoes and your carrots, all of that can all be recycled. So like vegetable waste can be made into compost. All these different things. There's lots of ways you can recycle. Maybe that's something you could do. Maybe with your mummies and daddies or older brothers and sisters, you could look up all the different ways we can recycle things to reuse them. Okay? So, it all sounds great, doesn't it? But is there really much point? Would it not just be easier if you finished with something to throw it in the bin? Well, actually, recycling is really, really important, because if we didn't, we'd just have a world full of rubbish. Rubbish would be everywhere. And why should we just use something once if it can be used again and again and again? And also, if we didn't recycle, all that rubbish would be littering our lovely forests, it would be going into our oceans, and then do you know what happens? Right, all our wildlife, all our animals would start eating all the rubbish. Do you think that would be good for our animals' bellies? No. So they can't eat that. So we have to make sure we recycle and we reuse. Now there is a sign, I'm going to try and see if you can see this. Now if you see this sign, can you see it? Like a sort of triangle with arrows. See that sign on any of the items in your house or if you're out shopping, it means they can be recycled. Okay? So where does it get recycled? Because to me, I don't know about you, but I've got 3 bins out the front and they all look the same apart from the fact they're a different colour and they get taken on a different day. I don't know where they go. Do you know where they go? Well, let me tell you. They go to a very large place called a recycling facility. I know, it sounds very posh. And in that recycling facility, what happens is all the recycling that you've put in, your brown bin or your green bin, gets sorted into categories. So all the glass would go together, all the plastic would go together, all the paper and cardboard together, and all the plastic, did I say plastic? Glass, metal, plastic, cardboard and paper would all get separated into its different piles. And then what happens is it goes through and made into bundles of those different categories, but then it gets moved on again. It gets taken to factories. It gets taken to factories to be made into different things. And I was researching, because I didn't know this, so I've had to write it down. Because I was wondering, and I bet you're wondering too, well, how do you turn an old Heinz bean tin into maybe a fork? How does it go from one thing to another? So what happens is, the different things that we're looking at, because we're looking at 4 things, they get taken to the different factories. So example, when glass and metal are recycled, so your Heinz bean can or your Nutella pot, when they are recycled, what happens is they're washed really clean, and then they're broken, smashed into lots of really small pieces. I wonder what sound it would make. I think it'd be really, really loud, do you? And it's made into really, really small pieces and then crushed together and mixed to make something new. Now this one I found really interesting. Paper. How do you recycle paper? Well, they wash it. Did you know that they wash paper with soapy water? I know. Then they mush it all together and then they roll it out, dry it, and you've got new paper. How clever is that? Now plastic is a very, very difficult one. Some plastics still can't be recycled and they're getting put into our oceans, but the ones that can, what they do is they break it up into lots of pieces, then they melt it, and then they can mould it into different things. So that is what recycling is. That is why we recycle. It's so important to recycle. If you think about all the plastic that you use in your house, your shampoo, your milk, when Mum does the washing and she puts the conditioner in the washing machine, nearly everything, unfortunately nowadays, has some form of plastic in it. So it's really important that we recycle so that plastic doesn't all end up in our oceans and in our parks and in our forests. So I'm going to show you what's in my basket today. I'm just going to wheel it on, my little shopping trolley. And I've gone through and I've had a little look in my house at all the different things that can be recycled. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to go over here. And this is my recycling centre. Can you see? Mrs. Wilson's Recycling Centre. Sort out your rubbish and do not litter. So we're going to sort out all the different things we've got in here. So we've got a yoghurt pot. We've got a Ribena bottle. We've got a Nutella pot. Yum, yum. We've got some minion shapes. We've got Cocoa Pops. I'd just like to state that we do eat some healthy food too, as a disclaimer. Coffee. We've been drinking a lot of. Milk. As you know, I've got a lot of animals and I have to buy things for them to eat. So the things that my animals eat come in little tubs like that. I've got loads of these little tubs. A raisin packet. Some paper. An empty toilet roll tube. A bottle lid. And a random saucepan lid that I don't need anymore, as you have. So, let's have a look at how much stuff we have all together. If I bring you down. So, I've got, let's count them. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got 13. So I'm now going to stop this. So we're now back at Mrs. Wilson's Recycling Centre. And do you remember all the things we had to recycle? We had 13, didn't we? And we're recycling into 4 categories: paper, metal, glass and plastic. So now we need to put them in the right places. So we've got our Nutella tub. That's glass, so that's going to come over here. We've got my milk, that's cardboard, but the lid is plastic, so I need to swap them, which means I now have 1 extra thing. So I've got 13 plus 1, that makes 14, so that would go there. Actually, I've realised that's the same with our Nutella lid. So we've now got 15, and they would go in our plastic. Then we've got our glass coffee, which would go there. We put that there, and our lid would go there. So we now have 16 things to recycle. My plastic Ribena bottle, plastic yogurt pot, plastic animal food, plastic bubble lid, cardboard raisins, cardboard Cocoa Pops, cardboard yogurt, toilet paper tube, tinned Minions shapes, and some paper. Oh, and my random saucepan lid would go in metal. So now I have sorted out everything. Hello Teddy, that's my dog, he's interested. Sorted out all my different pieces of recycling. And I've had my aeroplane, my helicopter coming to take us off, a monster truck, I know Grayson will appreciate that. And I've also got my robot Botty here looking at things. And we are, aren't we Botty, we are going to count all the different things we now have. So we said we had 16, so how many glass things do I have? I've got 1, 2. I've got 2 glass things. I've got 1, 2 metal things. 2. In my paper and cardboard, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 things. So far, paper is winning. I have 5 things. In my plastic, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 in my plastic. Which one of my piles has the most recycling? Charlie, which one has the most recycling? If I've got 2 in glass,
I'll say plastic.
it's plastic, isn't it? Because we've got 2 in glass, 2 in metal, we had 5 in paper, and we have 7 in plastics. We have the most in plastic. So your task today, there's going to be work on the website, but I want you to go around your house and see if you can find these 4 different materials of things that can be recycled. Count what you have in total. So we had 16 in total. Then separate them in your 4 piles and count each one and work out which one you have the most recycling in and which one you have the less recycling in. Have fun!